Hey there, total fitness bodybuilders. It's your Movember mustache building coach, Lee Hayward here. And you're in for a treat. Because in today's video, we have a special guest joining us, Chandler Marchman, aka Mandler. Now, besides sporting a very powerful and manly mustache, Mandler's no stranger to lifting heavy-ass weights. He's the owner of the Man Cave Gym in Tampa, Florida, and he has agreed to put together a full-length feature film teaching us how to master the bench press, which is without a doubt the most manly of all exercises. So my fellow brothers of iron, a few words of advice before we get started. First off, this is not some quickie 2-minute video clip. This, my friend, is an in-depth instructional documentary teaching you how to master the bench press. Everything from proper setup, foot position, grip, breathing, lifting technique, mindset, and even troubleshooting your weak points are all covered in insane detail. So make sure to watch the entire video before your next bench press workout. And second, get yourself a yellow legal pad and 3 sharpened pencils because you're going to want to take some serious notes. And third, grab yourself a big-ass mug of coffee, a can of Red Bull, or even a couple scoops of your favorite pre-workout. Because once we start this bench press tutorial, you're going to want to be cocked, locked, and ready to rock. So if you need to, pause the video right now, grab yourself a notepad and your favorite caffeinated beverage of choice, and then come on back and get ready to learn how to master the bench press.
What's going on, my fellow meathead brethren? As you can clearly see, I am not Lee, and hear from my voice, I'm clearly not Canadian. So let me introduce myself to you very quickly and explain what I'm doing here for you today. My name is Chandler Marchman. I met Lee a couple years back when he visited my strongman and powerlifting gym in Tampa, along with my buddy Elliot Holst, Mike from over at Critical Bench, and a couple other guys that you may know in the online and strength training community. And flash forward to today, he was so kind as to give me the big man on campus mantle for a couple days to let me share with you a couple of the advanced strongman and powerlifting training techniques that you'll be using in your muscle and strength maximizing lifts, like the bench press, the squat, the deadlift, and even the overhead press, so that you can get the most out of the elbow grease that you're rubbing into your training. So without further ado, I'm going to share with you some of the techniques that I take all of my clients, through, so that you can get the most out of your training and not leave any of those hard-earned gains that you were so desperately seeking on the table. So today what we're going to do is go exclusively into the bench press, everything you need to know about the techniques that will allow you to get the most out of your strength, explosiveness, and even size gains whenever you're going into heavy lifting. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, before we get started on the bar tracking, the grip, the cues that make a big difference on whether you're having success or failing like a fat chick stealing third, let me say this about what we're going to be going over inside this video. Number one, whenever you're doing any heavy lifting in these power and muscle maximizing lifts, you always want to be thinking about stacking your levers and proper lever alignment, while always thinking efficiency of human movement, so that you can do a couple things that are very valuable for lifting big ass weights. Number one, whenever you're stacking your levers, and what I mean by that is making sure everything is nice and tight, everything's in alignment, so that you can optimize your power in through the bar. What that's going to do is a couple things. Number one, it's going to allow you to recruit the most amount of motor units and muscle fibers necessary, which is valuable not just for big ass strength gains, but also size gains as well. Because whenever you're recruiting a lot of muscle fibers and later in the workout doing all of your weak point training, that's going to be valuable for building some big big muscle, all right? So you get stacked and jacked on top of strong and explosive. Very important when it comes to proper lifting techniques. But also, I want you to think about this. When we're doing these cues, keep in mind that this is to maximize the amount of weight that you can lift. So if you're just a bodybuilder thinking that, well, that's kind of cheating, that's BS, keep in mind, you always want to be training specific to the goals that you have. So think of the cues and everything that we're going to be going over in this video and the next couple videos as a way for you to maximize the amount of weight that you can lift. Nothing more, nothing less. And as a nice little bonus, as I mentioned, because of the motor unit recruitment, you're going to get some bigger size gains as well. All right, the first thing I want to go over as far as proper bench press form to maximize your strength and explosiveness goes while pressing heavy ass weights is going to be where your shoulders are in regards to the bench itself. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make inside the gym when I'm coaching them up or in my online coaching forum is going to be having their shoulders pretty much just kind of flailing all over the place. And the reason why that's so detrimental to your performance and won't allow you to see the true strength potential that you've got with the bench is going to be, summed up by this analogy. I tell people this all the time. Imagine you're running on soft sand versus running on hard pavement. Where are you going to be able to run faster? You're going to be able to run faster on the pavement because you have a strong foundation that you're applying force into. Now, the reason that's going to carry over into your bench press is this. If your shoulder blades are hanging off the bench, unless they're, retracted like such, and then protracted, like that, and placed squarely on that bench, you're not going to have a strong, sturdy foundation for you to apply force into while you're putting that bar up. So the first thing we want to do is to make sure our shoulder blades are put squarely on this bench. I'm going to show you a side angle right now that shows you exactly how to do that to maximize the amount of force and strength potential that you've got right now so that you're not leaving a lot of the weight that you could be lifting on the table. Okay, so let me first show you what it's going to look like if you're doing it the wrong way, which is with your shoulder blades hanging off the bench. All right, what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you real quickly. If you look, not only are your shoulder blades going to be hanging off, but that's also going to put yourself in kind of a precarious situation because of the long range of motion. And when heavier weights, you want to shorten the distance the bar has to travel. Now, not only will that be a more inefficient lift, but you're also, without having your shoulder blades tucked and driven into the bench, the pad, if you will, what's going to happen is you're going to lose a lot of the tightness in your upper back, which makes it far more unstable. And doing that is putting yourself in position to snap your shit up. No good if you're trying to get stacked, jacked, strong, and explosive. I want to stay away from injuries. So let me now show you what it's going to look like if you're doing it the right way, all right? What I want to do is retract and protract, or basically pull my shoulder blades down into my pocket. And if you notice, by doing that, I'm laying squarely on the bench. I've got a strong foundation. I'm tight, I'm stable. And if you notice, the distance the bar has to travel is a lot shorter. Anytime you can make the lift more efficient, anytime you can shorten the stroke, and like I said, anytime you can keep everything in alignment, stack those joints, stack those levers, you're putting yourself in position for a more efficient, stronger, and more explosive lift that keeps you from snapping your shit up. So, number one, keep your shit retracted, protracted, and you're going to be in a far more better position to put up some nasty ass weights. All right, so we got the shoulder blades retracted, protracted, and we talked about the importance of that. Now, let's go over how we can invite your trunk to the party. That's right. Your legs, your ass, believe it or not, they are pivotal for you being able to maximize your strength potential and hit the numbers that you truly deserve to be able to put up on the bench press. So this is going to be something of what's more comfortable for you. There's two options really. There's doing what I like to do, where your feet are on the ground, where your toes really are on the ground. And then there's the other option where you are having your heels on the ground. But either way, regardless of what you're more comfortable with, what works for you, the most important thing is this: you gotta keep that ass on the bench in order to make it, number one, a green light, good lift in case you're doing a powerlifting competition, and two, in order to help better stabilize and keep the lift safe so again, you don't snap your shit up. Now, there's gonna be two options for you to use as far as ass placement and foot placement go when you're benching. All right, it's completely up to you. Whatever's comfortable is what works. So I invite you to try both and see what works. Stick with what you like. Move forward with that. All right. So the first option is going to be the one that I like to use and the one that most people hate on. That's the one where your feet are tucked almost directly under your hips. You're driving your toes into the ground, and your back is kind of arched to where it looks like you're going to have a chest burster pop out at any moment. Now, some people lack the hip mobility and spine flexibility to get in that position. If that's you, then don't use that one. Use the next option where your femur and your tib-fib are at a 90-degree angle and your ass is planted on the bench. So either way, the most important thing that you have to understand is that you do need to get your trunk involved in the lift in order to, number one, make it a green light lift in case you are doing a powerlifting meet, because you need to have that ass stay firmly on the bench to make it a good lift. And also, you need to make sure you keep it on the bench in order to get good hip drive to optimize your performance. So I'm going to show you both ways, and I'm going to let you choose whatever you want. Remember, choose what you want. There is no wrong way to do it. There is only what's comfortable and most effective for you. So go through both, try them out, and whatever's more comfortable, stick with that. Now, the first option, where you're going to have your toes pulled back directly underneath your hips, the one that I like most is the one that's a little bit more controversial, because it will kind of put yourself in what looks to be and what can be a compromising position as far as your back is concerned. But if you have good hip mobility, if you have good spine flexibility, and you can get into this position and feel comfortable, or as comfortable as you possibly can when doing it the right way, with a heavy weight attached to your hands and pressing off your chest, then hey, stick with this, because the reason I absolutely love it is because that I, number one, can handle that, and two, it gives you a little bit of a tactical advantage by allowing you to further push your belly up, which when the bar contacts that point makes it proper depth and allows you to push from a higher distance. Okay, so that is essentially going to reduce the distance the bar has to travel. So let me show you what that looks like right now. It's not that comfortable, and it definitely looks like I said, you're gonna have a chest burster pop out, but this will give you a tactical advantage if you can put yourself in this position and keep from snapping your shit up while doing it. So let me show you this real quick. Essentially what I'm going to do, I've got my shoulder blades retracted. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my hips back to where my butt's nice and tight, my toes are driven to the ground, and they're almost directly underneath my hips. And what I'm going to do, and what a lot of powerlifters call this as being a belly bencher, is they're going to pull air into their belly, stay nice and tight to create that intra-abdominal pressure. And what that does is it shortens the distance the bar has to travel. As I said, this gives you a tactical advantage because it shortens the stroke, but the downside of that is it creates a lot of tension in that area. And if you are not one that has the hip mobility or the spine flexibility to support holding heavy loads in that position, could be a compromising position that leads to injury. So if you don't have that mobility, if you don't have that flexibility, and you do it, you try it, and it just doesn't work for you, it's uncomfortable and it hurts your lower back, then scrap that and stick with the next position we're going to talk about, which is your femur and your tib fib in a 90-degree angle while keeping your hips squarely, your ass squarely on the bench. So let's get into that position, and I'll show you the benefits of doing that as well. As I mentioned, if you don't have the spine flexibility or hip mobility to put yourself in position that I just went over, where you get a high arch and your feet are tucked underneath your hips and you're pretty much arched like that, then the other option for you to be able to get the most out of the lift would be keeping your legs in a 90-degree angle while keeping your ass squinched nice and tight, but also in contact with the bench. So this is what it would look like. So shoulder blades protracted, squarely on the bench. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have my legs at that 90-degree angle. I'm going to drive my heels into the ground, kind of pull and tighten up almost off the bench. Then I'm going to put them back down to kind of pre-tense them, make them nice and tight. And what this is going to do, while allowing me to kind of drive my heels down at the bottom of the lift, while driving the heels down and keeping my butt nice and tight, it's going to give me good hip drive so that I can put up more weights. Ultimately, the bench press is not just an upper body lift, it's a total body lift that requires you to recruit as many motor units as possible to get everything transferred into that bar. So whenever you start doing either a tuck with a high arch, or right here, instead of something foolish like this, you're going to have a more stable lift, a safer lift, and ultimately get more hip drive for a bigger number on the lift. Okay, so to rehash everything at this point, we have our shoulder blades retracted and protracted, put squarely on the bench so that we can both optimize the amount of force that we can apply into the bench, as well as shorten the distance that the bars to travel. We've got our ass and our feet put into use so that we can get more stability from the lift and greater hip drive. And ultimately, putting those two together gets our upper and lower body on the same page so that we're working as one badass, cohesive, explosive, and powerful unit. Now, what we can do is work on our grip. The grip is something that honestly not enough people focus on. And if you think about it, it's one of the most important things for you to focus on, all right? This is where you're applying all your force into in order to move the weight, all right? You're grabbing the bar. You're transferring force into the bar. So why the hell wouldn't you want to focus some time and attention onto it? So what we're going to do to make this optimal so that you're not leaving weight on the table is to focus on where you're gripping the bar, how hard you're gripping the bar, and lever alignment with the bar. So first off, let me address the simplest cue I can give you with the bar as it refers to your grip. You want to grip the hell out of the bar. You want to choke the bar. I tell people to choke the bar. I tell people to squeeze the pulp out of the bar. What this does is allow you to keep tight. It allows you to generate as much force as possible into the bar so that you can get the most out of heavy lifts. The next thing is going to be where you grip the bar. And in order to do that, I'm going to give you a little close-up into exactly what I'm talking about. The next part of your grip is going to be where you're gripping it. Now this again is going to be kind of a trial and error thing. Do whatever is comfortable for you, but I will say this. Remember, you have to make sure you pay attention to proper lever alignment whenever you're benching. So if you go too narrow making it more of like a tricep bench, or too wide, making it very chest dominant, you're going to lose some of the mechanical advantage that you could be getting by keeping it more a little bit wider than shoulder width, like I like having it. But ultimately, like I said, it's about where you feel comfortable. The simplest way you can find out is, number one, obviously just getting used to doing the bench press, kind of moving in, moving out, and finding out what feels good. And also taking advantage of where the rings are on the bar so that you can make sure you're even and you're not all cockeyed and pressing like this, like a jackass. So just like I said, do what feels comfortable, but don't go too wide or too narrow to lose that mechanical advantage that giving your body a stacked lever sensation or stacked lever advantage will give you. And the last thing we're going to talk about in regards to your grip on the bar is going to be how you're closing your hand on it, as well as wrist angle and forearm angle go in regards to how they're going to line up. So first things first, real simple, when you're gripping the bar, I like a closed grip because it gives you more control of the bar instead of an open grip where you're just kind of grabbing it like this. The reason being is because it gives you more control, and it kind of lessens the chance that you might have the bar slip and kind of, chop your damn neck off, all right? But other than that, it also allows you to squeeze harder, which is another thing that I enjoy more about having a closed grip. It gives you more control and more force that you can transfer to the bar by squeezing it harder. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the angle of your wrist and your forearm. The last thing I want you to see is you have a grip like this, where the bar, if it passed through, would go straight down instead of kind of bisect through your radius and your ulna, your forearm, okay? So I tell people like this: if you're going to bench, make sure you have everything in alignment. That goes right into having all of your levers aligned. You want to stack your joints. That gives you the most powerful, the strongest punch possible. And if we're going to talk about like a punch, think of it like that. Are you going to have more force and explosiveness punching someone like that, or keeping everything in alignment, boom, right there? So the bench press is no different. Squeeze the bar with a closed grip, keep everything in alignment, locked in this position right here, and you're going to be in a far better position to put up a big ass number with some bar bending bench press weight. Okay, so that sums up the positioning we're going to put ourselves in the bench press. Now let me show you what it's going to look like in real time, whether you're doing it with a high arch to where your toes are driven to the ground and your feet are underneath your hips, as well as your heels on the ground out in front of you. Okay, so at this point, our whole body is nice and tight. We're in proper position. We got the bar in our hands, and we're ready to take this big weight to pound town. At this point, we've only got a couple other things we want to focus on in order to properly execute the lift. Number one is going to be a proper unracking that doesn't take you out of your power position. Two is going to be how you properly track the bar while pressing it. Three is going to be what you do as far as proper coaching cues go. And the fourth thing is going to be your breathing throughout this entire process. Okay, the first thing I need to address when talking about proper unracking of the weight is going to be the fact that you should probably have a good spotter that you trust whenever you're doing some heavy ass weight on the bench press. Number one It's going to keep you from losing the weight and doming yourself or offing yourself. And two, if you were unable to get that heavy weight that you're trying to press, you're still going to be able to fight with it and have him kind of help you out so that you can get some good time under tension to initiate some more growth. Get stacked and jacked on top of getting strong and explosive. That's the name of the game. Being able to look good while kicking ass. But back to the point, there's a right way and a wrong way to use a spotter and to receive the spot. So most importantly, what you want to focus on is not letting him or not allowing yourself to get pulled out of your groove and pulling your shoulder blades off the bench. So what happens a lot of times, and what I'm going to show you, is how a lot of spotters kind of lift you off too hard, or you allow them to kind of lift you up too much so that you pull your shoulder blades off the bench. Obviously that's no good. So the simplest thing I like telling people to do is, instead of pushing up and reaching, pull out so that you can better engage your back. That will help you better stabilize the weight while pressing, so that your primary movers, which are going to be your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps in the bench, can do their work. But also, like I said, you won't pull those shoulders off the bench, which will screw everything up. So let me show you in real time what it's going to look like to pull it in place right where you're going to start that bar path instead of reaching out for it. So I'm going to get in position. First off, let me show you the wrong way, reaching. If you notice, sometimes spotters will kind of pull you out. Don't let them. Coach them up on the right way to do it. All right? You can obviously see how that's going to screw you up. Now let me show you the right way to do it. Got good placement, nice and tight. So he lifts me up. I'm pulling it right into place. That allows me to better engage my back and make it to where it's one swift movement. I'm not wasting too much energy that I'm going to be needing for that press by reaching out and then having to squirm back into place to put my shoulder blades where they need to be. So number one, focus on a good spotter, coach him up, and don't let him screw up your bench press. Okay, so we're in our good power position. All of our levers are stacked. Everything's in alignment. We're in position to kick some serious ass. Our spotter didn't screw us up by lifting us out of our groove. We've got our shoulder blades tight, tucked, ready to go, ready to kick some ass on this lift. But first thing we need to do is some proper breathing techniques. What we're going to do in order to do that is what's called the Valsalva maneuver. If you don't know what that is, I'll give you the simplest way I can explain this. Imagine you're dropping a deuce and you're having to bear down to push one out that's being a little shy. That is the Valsalva maneuver. What it allows you to do is create a lot of intra-abdominal pressure so that you can maintain tightness and force a lot of blood flow to the extremities, and just basically make sure everything is tight, tense, and in position to put up some big ass weights when you're bench pressing. Here's the way we're going to do it. Not pulling air into our chest, but pulling air into our belly. The reason we want to do that is because, number one, pulling air into our belly is going to create a lot more of that intra-abdominal pressure. And two, if you notice, when we talk about the bar tracking in the next portion of this video, it's going to further reduce the distance that the bar has to travel, making it a more efficient lift that allows us to bench more weight. So without further ado, let's get into the bar tracking portion of this video so we can discuss proper alignment and proper A, B, C of the eccentric and concentric portion of the lift itself. All right, so at this point we're in a good power position. We got that big air in our belly from utilizing that Valsalva maneuver. We're nice and tight, we're tense, we're ready to kick some serious ass on this heavy ass bench press. The next thing we need to talk about at this point is obviously the lift itself. And when we're talking about the lift itself, it's imperative to talk about proper bar tracking. The path with which the bar is going in the eccentric and the concentric portion of the lift. And in order to do that, we need to hit on two very important subjects. Number one being the angle with which your humerus is to your side during the eccentric and concentric portion of the lift, as well as where that bar is going to hit at the bottom before you start the concentric portion of the lift. So let's first talk about that angle that is going to be so very important in regards to lever alignment and recruiting the right muscle groups in order to maximize your performance in the lift. Okay, and what I'm talking about is you want to be throughout the lift at about a 45-degree angle from your humerus, your arm right here, to your chest and your side. Okay, if you're too high, that means you're going to lose a lot of stability in your upper back, and you're going to be relying way too much on your chest throughout the lift. All right, and that is going to drop your performance faster than a fat chick stealing third. Like I said, you're just going to be in a bad position, and you might even cause yourself either a torn bicep or a torn pec minor. Not something you want. You want to be doing this the right way, and you want to be getting the most out of your performance. And the best way to do it is making sure that that angle is about 45 degrees. And the other way, which you don't see a lot, but some people still do it, is going to be in too close. So there's a bad angle right here where you're close to that 90-degree angle, and then there's kind of turning into a close grip bench where you're relying too much on your triceps. So that happy median is right about that 45-degree mark. And in order to do that, the simplest thing I tell people to do is make sure while you're in position, while you're starting the lift, all right, which is, by the way, going to be the starting point and the end part of that bar tracking, you want to make sure your elbows, you internally rotate them so that, if you notice, your shoulders aren't going to have the propensity to kind of fall off the bench, but also you're going to push that chest up some, create a little bit of thoracic extension, and ultimately keep yourself in that power position where you're able to utilize your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps while helping your back stay engaged in order to better stabilize that weight so that the primary movers, the chest, the shoulders, and the triceps, do their work. The next thing we want to talk about is where that bar is going to hit. And real simple here, it's going to be kind of contingent upon how long your arms are, how tall you are. But for the most part, I tell people, if you're missing too high, if it's, you're kind of hitting that bar above the nipple line, you're missing too high. You're not in a good power position. If you're too low, that angle isn't where you want it to be. Ultimately, you want that bar to hit about in between your nipple line and the top of your rib cage. And if you notice, when you do that, and I'll show you right now, you're going to be at that 90-degree angle that gives you the most amount of punch, all right? And we're talking about punching power. Doing that, making sure that it's hitting right in between this area right here while pushing that belly up is going to reduce the distance the bar has to travel, making a more efficient lift, and it's going to make it to where your levers are in alignment for a more powerful position that allows you to transfer more force into the bar, which equates to what? A bigger bar bending, badass, impressive 1 rep max on the bench press. Okay, so at this point we've learned everything of what we need to know about positioning ourselves and priming ourselves to get the most out of our true strength potential that we've got right now, so that we don't leave any poundage or 1 rep max on the table. And I figured that the simplest way for me to kind of teach you about the certain cues that allow you to better get coached up throughout the lift. I figured the simplest way for me to do that is just give you a good clip of me doing 405 for just a quick and easy single that I did the other day. And that'll also show you that, hey, I'm not just the type to be all talk and no walk. I have a personal motto of don't just talk about it, be about it. So I'm going to give you a quick clip of that 405, break it down for you, and explain to you some of the best coaching cues that will allow you to position yourself for success, not just throughout the positioning and setup, but also through the execution of the lift itself. Okay, as you can see, I'm in a perfect power position right here. I got my shoulder blades retracted and dug into the bench. My hips are in place. My feet are in place, staying nice and tight. Got my spotter to hand the bar off to me perfectly. Chest up, air in the belly. I'm cocked, locked, and ready to rock. I'm blowing that weight up like the 4th of July. Last thing I want to leave you with in regards to what you can do in order to maximize the amount of weight that you can put up on the bench press is addressing your weak points. Inevitably, you're going to find a weight that's going to kick your ass, all right? Gravity is undefeated inside the weight room, so you need to understand that instead of bitching and moaning about that one weight, you need to learn from that failure. And what you can learn from that failure is this: where you fail during the bench press is going to tell you what you need to strengthen in order to patch up the weak points, that will allow you to build more strength to fortify the weaknesses that allow you to bust through that plateau. Not only that, but it allows you to build more size as well. And no one's going to bitch about building more muscle mass. It's pretty sweet. So without further ado, let's talk real quick about where you failed and what you can learn from each. If you're going to fail at the bottom, right at the chest, that means you have weak chest and shoulders. Do some dumbbell bench press with some varied volume, varied rep ranges, varied set ranges. Do that, and that will shore up some of the weak points and will allow you to bench more and to build more muscle mass. If you're missing midway up, that means you have weak shoulders. Do some overhead press, do some military press. Not only will it give you a bigger bench press, it will give you the bigger boulders for shoulders that make you look like a badass. If you're one of those few freaks that is failing at the top, that means you have weak triceps. Don't do tricep press downs. That's going to work the wrong head of the triceps. You want to work the long head, the lazy head of the triceps. In order to do that, do some dumbbell skull crushers, do some floor press with dumbbells or barbells, and do some dips. Not only will you increase the amount of weight that you can bench press, you will also build some big ass triceps that look like you got an ass chilling on the back of your arms. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that tutorial. Sorry if it was a little bit long-winded for your liking. Just want to share with you everything you need to be knowing about what you can do to be best positioned to kick the most amount of ass doing this most fantastic of meathead lifts. If you do have any further questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section below and I'll get to them as soon as possible. And if you did enjoy what I got for you today, then stay tuned, because I got even more coming up that the man himself, Lee, will be allowing me to commandeer the channel with. I'm talking about the deadlift, the overhead press, and maybe some other stuff too. I'm not sure. We'll see if Lee likes me enough. But nevertheless, let's hand it over back to the man himself, Lee. Appreciate your time, guys. Have a good one. Mandler out.
Now, if you're one of the few dedicated lifters who made it all the way to the end of this video, then that means you are serious about improving your bench press. And to help you take this goal even further, Chandler's put together a complete training system called Bench for Reps. And you can download a copy of this for yourself by clicking on the annotation right on your screen or clicking on the link that's in the video description below.